He is District Judge Chris Welch, and he's on the telephone with us right now to talk about his candidacy for Court of Common Pleas for Indiana County. Our conversation brought to you by Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, Todd. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here with us today to talk about your candidacy. We've had two other candidates for that seat who have been on with us today, and you are the latest. So what went into the decision here? How come you want to run for this position?
Well, I think at this point in time, Todd, I'm just at that point in my career with my experience that the time is right now. I mean, I've been on the seat in Northern Indiana County as district judge since I was elected in 2017. That's a 6-year term, so I'm starting into my 4th year right now as the sitting judge there. I've got almost 2 decades of practice under my belt. And we're at a point in life, my wife and I, where things are starting to slow down a bit. We are empty nesters. Our girls are both in college, and so life is a little less hectic right now.
I thought you were a lot younger than that. I'm just kidding.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, Todd. Thank you.
My goodness. The girls are in college already?
They certainly are. I've got my daughter is studying psychology, and my stepdaughter is studying nursing right now.
All right. So Indiana County Court of Common Pleas. Obviously, you worked with and in front of Judge Martin for a lot of years. You also have experience with Judge Bianco and Judge Clark, of course. I know that you're a longtime acquaintance of his. Let's talk a little bit about your law career here in Indiana County. It goes back a ways.
Sure, it does. Todd, I was licensed originally in 2002 by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. I've been in continuous practice since that time. Initially, when I came back to Indiana after law school, I picked up with the law firm of Simpson, Kablack, and Bell, now Simpson, Kablack, and Rivasecki. And I worked there for a couple of years until I formed a business partnership and a law practice with attorney Matthew Budash. And that was in 2005, and again, I've remained in continuous practice since then. And during that time, I've practiced primarily in family law, criminal law, and civil litigation over the 2 decades that I've been in practice, with extensive experience in front of the trial and appellate courts of Pennsylvania, including many out-of-county appearances over the years.
Mm-hmm. You're another guy from that Duquesne Law School. That must be quite the preparatory grounds, huh?
We are certainly proud of Duquesne as graduates. There are a number of people in the local bar from Duquesne Law School, and it's a great school. One of the things I like the best about Duquesne is they stress a higher standard than the legal standard. Duquesne stresses morality, and morality is definitely a higher standard than the law.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And that being the case, how does that prepare you to approach cases from the bench?
Well, I guess you always want to have a higher standard. You've got to apply the law fairly. As a judge, you have to apply the law as written. You're certainly not going to try to make the law into something that it's not. So you've got to interpret it strictly. But you've got to be fair, and I think that's where the fairness comes in, is that there's an element of morality. So even though there are consequences for actions, you still have to be fair when dealing with individuals. You
have some pretty extensive experience as well with a number of different committees and organizations. We, of course, have had you here for the Law Day event that I believe you were one of the founding members of that movement, weren't you?
That's correct. That originally started whenever my daughter was still in, I want to say, 5th grade. And so that's been quite some time. So I wanted to do something where I could become involved with her and her classmates. And so we put together a mock trial with her classmates, and these were 5th graders. So obviously we're not using, high-profile names. It's the trial of Goldilocks for the invasion of the home of the 3 bears. And so that evolved into something I eventually worked with Judge Hanna on bringing that to Indiana County and making it something bigger than it is. And so as a founding member, I'm still the chair of that committee. So every year in May, we go out and talk to students at the schools on a number of issues. and it's been fantastic to have that interaction with students. And now I'm actually seeing some of those students in court as litigants, and it's interesting to look back and remember, hey, we talked about some of these issues before. So yeah, that's a committee that I've been involved in since the very inception with the Indiana Bar Association. I'm also involved actively on the Family Bar Committee, and I've also been involved with the Charities Committee of the Indiana Bar Association.
Yeah, and there's a panel out there as well that I think folks ought to know about. It's the Indiana County Child Death Review Board. That's very, very serious work there, isn't it?
It is, and I was asked to serve as the chair of that committee by Judge Martin. Essentially, you look at the any deaths that occur in the county of any individuals who are under the age of 21, and you're looking at the cause of death. And essentially, what we're trying to do is identify trends that may be occurring in the community. If there's anything we can do to perhaps stem the tide, if there seems to be a growing trend.
We're talking with District Judge Chris Welch, who is a candidate for Indiana County Court of Common Pleas. And as we have asked the other candidates for this same position, the election, of course, coming up in the spring primary season and then the general election in November, would I be correct to assume that you're going to cross-file in both parties?
Absolutely.
Okay. As you think about the possibility of taking the seat, tell us about why it is so important for you and to you to become a judge here in Indiana County.
Well, after practicing for the better part of 2 decades, I've been honored. Let me say this: I've been honored and humbled at the same time to serve the residents of Northern Indiana County as their district judge. I have a wealth of experience professionally, as well as a lot of life experience, good and bad. Hopefully, with age comes wisdom. A good friend reminded me I have a little gray in my beard. Maybe you haven't seen it, Todd, and I appreciate the compliment again. I'm the only sitting judge in the race. The transition would be virtually seamless. And again, I'm at a point in life where, as empty nesters and kids that are grown, personal life is a lot less hectic and chaotic. I do have a couple of visions in the 2 primary practice areas that I've practiced in, and the primary things that the Courtroom 3 hears. First, in family law matters, obviously the highest concern is the well-being of children. Any children involved almost always suffer when there's conflict in families. After almost 20 years of handling family law as a family law practitioner, it's become abundantly clear to me that advocating for parties, a majority of the cases involve a total breakdown in communication, which renders decision-making virtually impossible. And so what I envision, Todd, would be a more collaborative approach to these matters, where we would utilize professional services in the community, such as a custody coach, so that these individuals can learn better co-parenting skills and improve their communication, enhance co-parenting decisions.
The opening of that 3rd seat on the Court of Common Pleas is, of course, something that is new within the last 5 years. In your time serving here in Indiana County and walking through those courtroom doors, have courtroom operations or procedures, have they changed significantly or substantially?
Let me just back up for a second, Todd, with something that you just said. With regard to that 3rd courtroom, that was added with Judge Hanna, because at the time it was Judge Martin, Judge Olson, and then Judge Hanna was added around 2003, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. The courtroom is newer, but that seat has been there since Judge Hanna. And so then when Mike Clark filled that seat, he took that courtroom. And I think for anyone who's not been in the courthouse, that courtroom is not a jury courtroom. The only courtrooms where jury trials are able to be held are in Courtroom 1 and Courtroom 2. Courtroom 3 has predominantly been for family law cases, and more recently criminal matters where there's not a jury trial, for instance, taking a plea, ARD, and those sorts of things. But to answer your question, something that none of us would ever have expected is the onset of the pandemic a year ago. You've asked how things have changed. Well, we've had multiple closures off and on. And so that's caused us to rethink, and every court is doing things a little bit differently. Of course, we're doing masks, social distancing, sanitizing. We utilize our parking lot for a waiting room, so only individuals who are up for a hearing are called in. Up until Monday of this week, 2 days ago, we were still essentially closed for hearings. So we've been using online resources in order to conduct hearings. We've been having Zoom hearings, and that's been great. The technology's been a challenge, but what it's enabled us to do has been fantastic.
Of course, the use of the KCAC for jury selection is another of the big changes that have come about because of the pandemic.
Correct.
All right, so we're approaching the end of our time together. Did Goldilocks, did she beat the rap in that case?
It was. I think we had a hung jury half the time that we had the case, because I think that some of the kids just love Goldilocks. She was the main character.
There you go. Hey, the law's the law, though, and it must be administered fairly. I know that is your position, and will remain as you run for this very important post in the Indiana County Court of Common Pleas. One last time, Chris Welch, why would you be the best candidate for the Court of Common Pleas in Indiana County?
Experience. With 2 decades of experience in the variety of types of cases that I've handled, I think my experience speaks for itself. And again, as a sitting judge, I think that the transition onto the Common Pleas bench would be virtually seamless.
Chris Welch, thanks so much for visiting with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, have a great day today.
You as well.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, 101.1 FM and AM 1160.